Today we're talking about Auburn transfer Chad Baker-Mazara. Hang on. Huh? USC? Crud. Never mind. Today we're talking about Cal transfer Andre Stojakovic. Hang on. Huh? Illinois? Him too? Crud. Third time's a charm. Okay, today we're talking about Big East Player of the Year and St. John's transfer RJ Lewis. RJ Lewis? Good. RJ Lewis.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Tuesday, April 29th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us your first listener watch to get your Tuesday going the right way. Special shout out to all the everydayers with us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and our great insiders as well. It's great to be together. This episode is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox, no console needed. Head to amazon.com/firetv-locked-on to learn more. Coming up on the show today, yes, I joked about it after striking out on a couple names. I now want to turn our attention to someone that I haven't heard Carolina attached to at all, but I think they should be. We'll look at Jaden Young in some more. We talked about him Friday a little bit, but the more I learn about this dude, the more he screams Tar Heel to me. We'll explain why. We'll look into some other sports as well. Baseball climbing the charts. Golf falls just shy of an ACC championship. And women's tennis gets their NCAA tournament assignment. All right, let's start talking about transfer targets. I joked in the cold open, but legitimately, if you listened to yesterday's show, you heard me say, oh man, the plan for Tuesday is we're going to start by talking about Chad Baker-Mazara, the Auburn transfer. For a multitude of reasons, I think he would be a great addition to Carolina on the wing. He's a phenomenal three-point shooter. He's a great free throw shooter, the best in Auburn history single season this past year. But of course, out of I hadn't heard like him leaning towards a commitment or anything. On Monday morning, he commits to USC, so I got to scratch that whole show and start from scratch. And then we had heard Andre Stojakovic was going to commit sometime this week, and it always felt like an Illinois lean. Whatever, fine. I thought I could sell the Tar Heels on it. But he committed also on Monday to Illinois. Good grief. Well, then on Monday afternoon, Joe Tipton announced that Carolina was in play for USC transfer Des Claude. I'm going to let that one simmer a little bit. We might attack that on the Wednesday show just as we learn more. He's going to be visiting Florida, and so just want to see where things are at with that before we dive into it. There's Jameer Watkins, who we've talked about. We might, in my opinion, maybe should go all in on that at this point. I think he would be a fantastic addition. And again, I'm sad. Like, people are like, oh, all the Carolina folks now are going to be like, Stojakovic never really wanted him. No, that's not true. I'm sad we didn't get Andre Stojakovic. I think he'll be great at Illinois, and I think it would have been great at Carolina. But today, I want to throw Carolina's hat into the ring of reigning Big East Player of the Year and St. John's transfer RJ Lewis. He, who, by the way, you might recall, was controversially benched by Coach Rick Pitino in St. John's second round loss in the NCAA tournament to John Calipari's Arkansas Razorbacks. Which we never really got clarification on that, whether it was something he did, just having a bad day, and so Coach Pitino decided to pull him. I was critical of Coach Pitino in that moment, and I've never heard anything about what RJ did negatively in that moment. So until I do, I'm not going to put that at his feet. I'll lay it at Coach Pitino's feet. Now, of course, there's a couple things here. Let's be superstitious. I'm a superstitious guy. I played baseball growing up. Never stepped on the foul line once. RJ leaves. Why not get RJ in to be your leading scorer? Sounds good to me. In terms of where he's at and what he's got going on, RJ Lewis both entered the draft and the transfer portal. And so right now he's, has eligibility for both. I truly think he's going to come back to school, though. So I think Carolina could and should go in on him. Every mock draft I've looked at, he is either very low second round or out of the draft altogether. And so I just think it's in his best interest to come back. I mean, if you're Carolina, I feel like you got to make a phone call on this thing, right? Check into it. What's it going to cost? Who are the suitors? Why not grab a look? I'm sorry for taking more water breaks than usual. My throat's tonight. But I mean, this dude is the Big East player of the year, for crying out loud. You do what you got to do to raise the money if it's a money thing. You do what you need to just get him to campus, get him to come look at Chapel Hill, whatever it is. Quick bio blast on RJ Lewis. Has 1 year left of eligibility, started at UMass, has played the last 2 years at St. John's. He's 6'7", 196. He is a small forward. Like, that's the thing, is he would not be playing out of position. He would be playing his 3 position that he's used to. Great positional size for what Carolina would want at that position. I love it. Stats from last season: 18.9 points a game in 31.8 minutes per game. He's a great positional rebounder. Remember, he's a wing. He plays the 3, the small forward. 7.2 rebounds a game. Hubert Davis would love that. 2 assists a game, 1.4 steals. His shooting last season, 43.9 from the field, 33.6 from 3, 47.5 from 2, and 74.7, just shy of 75% from the free throw line. So I would prefer him to be a higher level 3-point shooter than he is. I guess I'll say that St. John's didn't have many great 3-point shooters. And so, with him being, frankly, one of the best last year, of course, people are going to hone in on that. And so if Carolina shooters can be better around him, maybe that unlocks that a little bit. Yeah, it's hard to say. But he does so many other things well. Again, like that rebounding positionally, the offensive rebounding he brings, some of that makes up for that, in my opinion, a little bit. So you're always weighing and balancing those types of things. And so who knows? He scored in double figures in all but 2 games this year. One of them was that loss to Arkansas because he didn't play the last however many minutes. So that's a thing. He had 14 20-point games. He dropped 30 on Villanova, had 29 in another game, 28, all that. 10 double-doubles this season. Again, 10 double-doubles as a small forward. Again, you just got to think about what could somebody add in ways you might not have thought about. RJ Lewis adds different things than, sure, maybe like a Chad Baker-Mazar would have added with his shooting, or like Cam Johnson added with his shooting, but he just does it a little bit different. I can get with that. And part of it is a lot of the Carolina fan base has been screaming for an offensive dude. Who can be our guy? Who can be our go-to scorer? Here you go. Gift wrapped on a platter. Again, just shy of 19 points a game for St. John's, who is wildly defensive minded. That's a great thing. And to that point, I would imagine that he could and might do even more for Carolina if he came. Something else that I really love, I'll mention 2 more things, then we'll just look at a pro-con list. He is tough. I mean, like T-U-F-F tough. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. Nobody needs to hear me saying tough with 2 F's. But if he comes to Carolina, there is no wine and cheese situation. Like, this is a dude. I mean, you got to be a dude to play for Rick Pitino, right? That's just what that is. And Carolina can always use that rough, dogged mentality where he's just going to get after you. And that leads me to the next thing I wanted to mention that I think RJ Lewis would bring well to Carolina is defense. Yes, when you look at RJ Lewis, it's like, man, 19 a game, crazy stuff. But part of the reason he was Big East Player of the Year is because he's a 2-way player and he does it on the other end. Last season at St. John's, his defensive rating was 92.8 per 100 possessions. And if you wonder, is that good? Well, literally no Tar Heels were under 100 last year. The last time Carolina had someone that low, which is a good thing. By low, I mean that good in defensive rating, was Walker Kessler in 2020-21, who didn't even play as much as he probably should have. But he was at 88.5, which is a bonkers number. Prior to that, if you want to find somebody else who was that low in defensive rating, you got to go back to Kennedy Meeks in the championship season of 16-17. That's what we're talking about here. That's the level of defense he brings, again, from the 3 position. And what's one of the biggest things that we've talked about, you lose with Drake Powell out, defense. And so think about having RJ Lewis at the 3, Caleb Wilson and or Jaron Stevenson at the 4, and Henry Vasar at the 5. And again, with other players behind them. But that threesome right there is phenomenal defense alone. And if Seth's starting at the 2, the Tar Heels could be insane on defense next year with RJ Lewis in the lineup. That's what I'm saying. And part of that too is because of his size. He's got and athleticism. He's got switchability up and down. And I'm not saying he can guard 1 through 5 every night, but depending on personnel, there's that capability. Let me just give a couple other pros and cons, and then we'll move on from talking about RJ Lewis. But again, I just want to paint a picture with all of these people of like, here's why I think I like that Carolina's going after a guy, or in this case, here's why I think Carolina should be going after RJ Lewis because of these things. I'll name 4 other pros. The rebounding. Again, I think this just stands out so strong to me because yes, there is the scoring that he brings. Yes, there's the standard defense that he brings, but man, all sorts of stuff. What was his offensive rebounding percentage? 7.0. Defensive rebounding percentage 17.0. I mean, it's just like there's just a lot of possibility there for given his positional size, and I like that. And can go to the glass, right? That's the thing. He is a driver. I love that. Carolina can attack, draw attention. One thing we'll get to this that he needs to do more is to be able to pass and share and kick out. I wish he'd do that. But 5 free throw attempts a game was his average last year. He can attack out of the half or the full court. Just shy of half his shots are at the rim, 48% last year. That's what I'm talking about, man. Last year, Carolina broke down at times in the half court. You could put it in his hands and it could work. Speaking of which, the third pro I'll mention that I really like is that he can be a break leader, meaning he can rip a rebound and run it himself. Pitch ahead if he needs to, but he can run it and distribute or finish on the break. And then the fourth thing I'll mention is that because of his positional size, something that RJ Lewis is very adept at is posting up. And so Carolina could invert at times, kind of like they did with Harrison Ingram, let him go in and play the post and then play out of that and let him facilitate. A couple cons. The first thing goes directly against what I just said. With all the tension that RJ Lewis draws, I'd like to see him be even more of a playmaker, even more of a distributor. He's not phenomenal at that, and I think he could do it more. Next con. He is fine as a shooter, but I'd like to see it go up. I'd like to see that just shy of 75% at the line last year go up to 80. I'd like to see that 33 point whatever from 3-point go up to 35 or 36. Could he do that with a lot of talent around him? Potentially so, especially because he's a wing and Carolina would need that. And then the last thing is from watching, I watched a lot of St. John's this year, and as good a defender as he is, I don't think he talked enough. And I think I'm also hyper attentive to that right now because of how Coach Davis talked about Carolina's defense this past year, where guys didn't talk. So all that in a nutshell, give me RJ Lewis. I'd love to see Carolina at least look into it. And they might already have it, and we just don't know it. But that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm looking at. Okay. For all of this, so many guys off to other teams, whatever, fine. Wouldn't you like someone who wanted to be a Tar Heel, who wanted to be in Chapel Hill, who had dreamed about it all their life? Oh, hey there, Jaden Young. How you doing? Welcome to the Tar Heels. We'll talk about him in just a second. Right after I tell you about game time, there is nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment, it just feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with game time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Literally, as I'm recording, Houston and Golden State are knotted at very close. Fred VanVleet just hit an insane 3 to tie the game with like a minute to go. Wouldn't you like to be part of that? Well, now you can without worrying about the stress of last-minute ticket hunting because of Game Time, who makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets even when the demand is sky high for you. Prices on the app actually goes down the closer it gets to tip-off, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60% off. And not just for games. You can get that for sports, yes, but also concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. I also like that Game Time has all-in pricing so that you don't get any surprise fees at checkout. What you see, if you toggle that on, is what you get. How about some tickets for tonight's Game 5 between the Milwaukee Bucks and Indiana Pacers coming up at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight? Just $41 you can get in the door for that. at Game Time, man. That's a great deal. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets. Lowest prices guaranteed. On Friday afternoon, Jaden Young committed to North Carolina after 2 years at Virginia Tech. Out of the blue, surprised everybody, and everybody was taken aback by it, including like those that are most at like Inside Carolina and Tar Heel Illustrated, like everybody. I'm talking to everybody except, the Tar Heel coaching staff. And so I wanted to wait a day coming off of the weekend because I wanted to get the Stojakovic stuff in before he potentially committed, just in case he committed on Monday, which he did. So I'm glad we waited. But Jaden Young had a great interview with Inside Carolina's Sherelle McMillan. Sherelle does a phenomenal job. I love this. And I want to use this interview to kind of launch off to say that the more I learn about this young man, the more I like him, the more he is a Tar Heel, and the more I like him being at Carolina. And I know there was this outcry because everybody thinks everybody that a team gets in the portal has to be like the dude. Not everybody can be the dude. You need depth pieces. You need everyone to fill up a team. If everyone's an eyeball, then, it doesn't all work. You can't hear or taste or what, you know what I'm saying? Like, so you need all of these pieces, and Jaden Young provides that. But part of this for me with him is that sometimes on sports teams, the right person comes to the right team at the right time. And even though they aren't the superstar, they have a massive effect on winning because of what they bring, like from a cultural standpoint, a locker room standpoint, whenever it is. Let me give a recent example from my Atlanta Braves, who started off the year terribly. I mean, so bad. 0-7 to start the season. In comes Alex Verdugo to play left field, and he's not going to be the superstar of this team. That's Matt Olson and Austin Riley and, Michael Harris and Ronald Acuna when he gets back from injury. But Alex Verdugo, since he got there, has been hitting leadoff. He's been taking disciplined at bats. He's been setting the tone. He chokes up on 2 strikes and just puts the ball in play. He's making plays in the outfield, except for when he got a ball hit over his head on Monday night. It was pretty fun. Anyway, his at-bats and his approach are setting the tone for the rest of the lineup and the team, and they are responding to it. We see things like this happen all the time. The wrong player can crater a team because they become a cancer, but the right player can completely inspire and improve things. And I truly think that's what Jaden Young can do for Carolina. Hubert Davis has, how many times have we heard him say how much he's on the lookout for guys that want to be at Carolina, that want to come to Chapel Hill? And my good night if Jaden Young doesn't embody every ounce of that. Some say that they liked Carolina growing up or wanted to be a Tar Heel growing up. Other people lived that out, and that's Jaden Young, who literally went to late night with Roy after late night with Roy with his family. Like, that's a thing he literally did. Grew up in Goldsboro, where Kobe White's from, right? Like, all of that. So when I say dream school for Jaden Young, I mean the dream school. That is the place where he and his dad, according to Sherelle's article, would often talk about, like, his dad told him at late night, like, the next time you play in the Smith Center, it's going to be because you're getting recruited, like that kind of thing. And so here's my take with this situation. There is a currency on a team that can matter more than anything a player does on the floor. And yes, that doesn't mean that Jaden Young can't do stuff on the floor, because he can, man. He can get some shots up and knock them down. But what he brings, the spirit of being a Tar Heel, could be massive. And it just might matter on the floor as well. So for everyone who said some version of, ugh, why would Carolina get a guy who is going to go to High Point? Ew, gross. We don't need him. He can't do it here. You got to understand a couple things. And most importantly, that it wasn't going to be the same role at High Point that it was at Carolina. High Point was recruiting this guy to be their superstar, to be the guy with the ball in his hands all the time. That's what they wanted for him. Instead, he is saying no to that opportunity for himself so that he can become part of a Carolina team and compete. I love that player being on my team. And so let's not rush to judgment, right? Jaden Young told Sherelle McMillan in this interview he wanted to go to a school close to him, but that High Point was the only one close that was offering. But as I said on Friday's show, and this was before we knew this for fact, but it just made sense to me that when Alan Huss, who was the coach at High Point, left to go be coach in waiting at Creighton 2 days after Jaden Young committed, I might add, he thought about staying, but the things that followed ended up causing him to leave. But listen to this thing that I like, just multiple things that I really like about Jaden Young, and here was one of them. Quote, my plan originally was to stay around and everything seemed like a fit. Then they, meaning High Point, started recruiting a lot of guards. I'm not sure if it's because they thought I was leaving, but there were a lot of guys under 6'7", and here we go. In my mind, if I'm going to compete for a spot, I might as well compete against the big dogs at the highest level. I'm a competitor. That's my main thing. I'll compete with anyone in the world, end quote. In a world where so many basketball players are running away from the fight of positional battles, where they're saying, oh, you brought guys in at my position, I am going to go play elsewhere where I won't have to compete and I'll be almost guaranteed a starting job. He's the opposite of it. He's running to the fight instead of saying, I could be the dude at High Point. He's saying, send me into the battle with North Carolina guys, and I'm going to see if I can carve out a role for myself. This dude wants to compete. And again, he might not factor into the rotation as much as he would at High Point. I mean, he's not going to, but he is going to work. As the coach said in the movie Rudy, I wish your heart was in the rest of my players' bodies, or whatever that quote is. Here's another thing I like about Jaden Young. He don't have to be flashy with telling everyone all his moves and what he's doing in terms of the portal, right? Like, I think there's something to that. Just you do you, and it doesn't have to be a big flashy thing. Sherelle asked him, did you ever officially decommit from High Point? And his answer, quote, no. I was waiting on some other decisions to help my decision a little bit. I just feel like a lot of other people are in other people's business, and I don't really like that. So I just kept it to myself. I like it. He's like, I don't need the circus. I don't need the hoopla. Let me just go. I'm just going to go to Carolina. Something I love is he says in the article he's going to be at the first summer session for getting to campus. And Carolina needs to develop chemistry right out of the gate. And everyone that can get there for that first summer session, that's a big deal. And I thought this, and two more things I want to say, and then we'll move on. He gave an answer about Coach Davis in Carolina that I thought was just great, kind of big picture insight into what the Tar Heels are trying to do in the Hubert Davis era. Sherelle asks, did you talk with Coach Davis about positional fit? His answer, quote, he doesn't really talk about positions. He said he's trying to be positionless and wants basketball players. He said he thinks I can make good reads out of ball screens. He likes that I defend well and that I'm an aggressive player. He said I can be doing kind of anything really, but I guess I'm a combo guard, end quote. You just get a glimpse into the Hubert Davis psyche a little bit there. He wants guys that can play anywhere, any position. Carolina's getting height. Jaden Young has that, which is great. And you catch the defense. That's been kind of a staple of what Hubert Davis is trying to do. 2 years ago when Carolina was a 1 seed, defense was in the DNA. We just talked about it earlier on this show. This Carolina team could be really defensively strong. And so that was just insightful to me about the culture Coach Davis is creating. And then I just want to end with this final quote from Jaden Young. And I'm not going to provide any commentary after it. I just want it to speak for itself, but catch all the nuances here. Quote, honestly, I've been watching UNC for a long time. I remember watching Kendall Marshall and Marcus Page. I remember what those teams played like, all the things they did. I think we were trending in the right direction last year, but Carolina basketball just wasn't what it was. It was built on guys who grew up watching the team or who had fans in their family. It meant something to those guys. I know the world is different, meaning like college basketball or NIL, but I know I can bring that. I can be there and show them to the best of my ability what it means to be a Carolina player, end quote. That's good, man. Did you catch what he said? He's already in. This dude's a Tar Heel. Embrace him. Please, let's do that. Carolina baseball trending in the right direction, but didn't they lose a game to Pitt over the weekend? Pitt's not good, right? Why did they climb up so high in the polls? I'll answer that question for you in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, the NBA playoffs are here, and the NBA is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action right now. When you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if that bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes this so easy for you, man. Whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props, from three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, even after the game tips off, you can combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. 4 NBA playoff games tonight. Let me give you the lines as they stand right now at FanDuel. Pacers -8 over the Bucks. Knicks -5.5 over the Pistons. Celtics -11.5 over the Magic. And the Clippers just -2 over the Nuggets. Go check it out. Head on over to FanDuel.com to claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Diamond Heels were 8th in the polls last week. They win the series at Pittsburgh this weekend, 2-1, and move up in Monday morning's polls, 3rd at Baseball America, 4th at Division I, D1 baseball, basically. And man, for a lot of people, that might seem weird. It's like, wait, we lost a game at Pittsburgh, right? Why did we climb up? Well, let me take you to some questions that Will Hager asked me in the Locked on Tar Heels Discord on Monday. He said, Isaac, this ranking feels a little high. Doesn't this ranking feel a little high after losing to a team like Pitt this weekend and not even being top 4 in the ACC standings? Am I overthinking it? Are we really that good? What's going on here? Let me take those questions one at a time because these are great questions from Will, and I thought they might be beneficial to answer for other people out there. So number one, is the ranking too high? I know, and this is my answer. I know that we lost a game to Pitt over the weekend, but it was just one game. For those who might not follow baseball as closely, who might follow football or basketball more closely, when you lose a game in football, when you lose a game in basketball, it's a standalone game. It's one result. And for football, literally your only result of the week. For basketball, your result out of maybe 2, maybe 3 in that week. And so if you drop a game to a bad team, you're probably going to fall. In baseball, it's quite different than that. And so we have to change the thinking a little bit because great teams lose all the time. If you are winning 66% of your games as a Major League Baseball team, there's 162 games in the season. You win 106 games, which is like historically good, right? So that's not a thing in baseball. And so we got to shift that focus. So here was what I said to Will. Focus less on the one loss, focus more on the series win on the road. That's crucial. And that's what allows Carolina to rise up, even though it's against a lowly Pitt team. Still winning 2 out of every 3 baseball games is historically good. That's what you're trying to do. And so Will's next question, but we're not even top 4 in the ACC standings. Actually, Carolina is now, is what I said back to Will. The Tar Heels moved up to 3rd in the ACC standings after the weekend. And part of the ranking side of things is that conference schedules are wildly unbalanced in baseball. The ACC has 16 total baseball teams. There's no SMU and there's no Syracuse. Neither of those schools have a baseball team, which is weird to me, particularly about SMU. But you only, of the other 15 ACC schools, you only play 10 of them, and it's either home or road. There's literally no home and home against any conference foes in baseball. So there's just so much lack of balance here. So ranking teams takes into account so much more than just conference standings. So you could look at Carolina and be like, oh man, they're only 3rd, but they're 3rd in the nation? What? just you can't factor that in solely the way you might be able to in other sports. And this is not a question that we'll ask, but for everyone's knowledge, part of it is you get one weekend off over the course of the ACC season. Carolina hasn't had theirs yet. That's upcoming this weekend, which is perfect timing because following that, Carolina will take on the two teams that are above them in the ACC standings right now, hosting NC State in 2 weekends and going to Florida State to close out the ACC schedule in 3 weekends. So much needed rest right now before getting into that action. And then Will follows up with one final question. He said, so Isaac, are we then a top 5 team based on your eye test? This is a great question. It's funny because early in the season when Carolina started off 13-0, I think it was 13. I'm pretty sure it was 13. I was like, man, this team, because I expected them to be good coming into the year. But then they hit that lull. They lost their first ACC series. They lost their second to be really good. But since then, they've reeled off 6 straight series wins. The key for Carolina this year is funny because it's kind of flipped from last year. Last year, it was all about the offense doing so well and the bullpen. The starting pitching struggled because they had lost multiple starters in Jake Knapp and Folger Boaz. This year, Boaz is at the top of the, he's your ace, 9-0 right now. And then you've got Aiden Houck and then Jason DeCaro as your third weekend starter, who was the number 1 ace last year. And so the starting pitching is so much better than last year. The defense is strong. And so the question to me is about the offense. And that the offense's capability depends on whether this is a top 5 team or like a top 15 team. Either way, they're in that conversation. So I would say comfortably the Tar Heels are top 10 team in the nation, in my opinion, Will, to answer your question. Okay, quickly, and then we'll get out of here. Golf update. Man, unfortunately, the Tar Heels lose to Virginia in the ACC championship. It's what you want, right? You had the teams that finished 1 and 2 in stroke play heading into match play. Carolina is up 2-1 going into the final 2 matches. They're head-to-head matches, and you just score it by holes. And Carolina had a great shot in both of them, just needed to win one, but ended up losing both, and Virginia's the ACC champ. So stinks for the guys. Next up is going to be the NCAA Regional starting on Monday, May 12th, so stay tuned for that. Women's tennis got their NCAA, the selection show was on Monday evening. The ladies are the number 5 overall seed. They will host a quartet in Chapel Hill that includes Kansas, South Carolina, and VCU. Kansas and South Carolina kick things off Friday afternoon, followed by Carolina VCU. Those 2 winners will square off Saturday, and that winner then goes to the Super Regional, which will be the next weekend. That's where things stand right now. Carolina is so consistent, getting to the NCAA tournament year after year. This is their 26th straight. They have been a national seed in 21 of 22 of Brian Calbus's seasons. Crazy stuff. The ladies are rolling again. Can't wait to see how they do things. It's going to be awesome. All right, guys, that's it for today's show. Thanks so much for being here as we talk RJ Lewis, as we talk about hey, Jaden Young, I think could be an important player as part of Carolina this year. Keep your eyes out on that. If you haven't subscribed to the show on YouTube or audio, make sure you do both of those so you don't miss a second of Locked on Tar Heels. Join the Locked on Tar Heels Discord. That link's in the show notes. Again, a group of over 500 Tar Heel fanatics who just love to talk Carolina and whatever about life. It's great. And if you want to go even deeper with the show and have direct interaction with me, come on, join the Locked on Tar Heels Insiders. That link is also in the show notes. Would love to see you there or talk to you more about it. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow, but until then, peace.